Imagine being able to communicate with any executive in a way that instantly raises your credibility, gets senior leaders competing to have you on their team, and makes them invest in your career. Well, that's exactly what happens when you understand which of the four executive types you're dealing with and can communicate with each of them effectively. This is exactly what I do every day when working with C-suite executives in boardrooms where multi-million-dollar decisions are made. In this video, I'll show you how to identify each executive type quickly, what each of those types actually values, and how to adapt your communication so your very next meeting changes how you're positioned and opens the doors to bigger opportunities. So a while ago, I was nearly fired because a VP filed a complaint against me. Now, this wasn't because I did anything wrong, it was because I didn't know how to match my message to the way he preferred to be communicated with. What this meant was, from day one, he pushed back on everything that I did. And this was incredibly frustrating because I thought I was giving really good answers, but he just wouldn't listen to anything I said. And the worst part was, he began telling other leaders that I wasn't able to deliver. Eventually, they formalized this complaint and I was removed from the project entirely. And my replacement walks in, said the same ideas that I'd been saying the whole time, and the VP loved him because he was packaging those same ideas in a different way. The problem that I had was that this VP was a blue, but I was treating him like a green. And I'll tell you what that means in a moment, but if you're not adapting your communication to the specific style, this causes friction, it wrecks your credibility, and this could easily disrupt your entire career. With executives, the message you're communicating does matter, but it's the delivery that will earn their trust. So next, I'm going to show you the exact steps to identify what color you're dealing with so that you can adapt your message and build authority and credibility fast. So this is the four types of executive. You've got the reds, who push for power and speed and visible results. Then you've got greens. Now, these are the people who keep things steady, they like predictability, and they want to keep the business moving forward. Then you've got blues. They want logic, structure, and airtight reasoning. And finally, you've got yellows. They value innovative solutions and a balanced viewpoint. Now, each of these executives is looking for something completely different, and they all have specific expectations about the way they want you to communicate with them and what they look for in the people that they trust. And this is what most professionals get wrong because they focus too much on the substance of the message and completely ignore the framing of that message. For example, take this slide deck. It's full of graphs and data and a detailed analysis. If I put this in front of a red executive, they're going to hate it. To them, this looks slow, overcomplicated, and disconnected from actual business results. Even if the work is really good, a red is likely to walk away thinking that you're ineffective and too detailed and that you're not ready for any leadership roles. Now, show this exact same slide deck to a blue executive and their reaction is going to be completely different because they're going to love it. To them, this is logical, thorough, and it's well thought through. That same work suddenly makes you look credible and capable and someone worth trusting with more responsibilities. And this is important to understand because if you don't adapt your communication style to the executive that you're dealing with, they're going to see you as a negative in the business, which means they'll think you're either slowing them down, you're missing the point, or you're just not thinking at the level that they need you to. But how do you adapt your message to each executive without overthinking it or changing who you are every time you speak? Well, I'll show you now. I'm going to take this slide deck here and I'm going to adapt it 4 different ways, one for each of the executive types. And I'll explain exactly why each version works for just one color and will fail with the other colors. And once you'll learn this, you'll stop guessing what executives want and start being the person that they trust with bigger opportunities. So first, let's understand the message. The message is you're losing approximately $1.2 million annually due to incomplete follow-ups on warm leads. The issue is the inconsistent ownership after first contact. And the suggestion to improve it is we assign a single owner per account, and this will solve the issue within 60 days. To a red, this message is really effective because it doesn't give them what they're actually looking for. A red will look at this and they will think, so what? Come back to me when you've actually got a real solution. Now, the problem with the message isn't that it's wrong, it's that it doesn't move anything forward because it's more of a statement. There's not really a decision here. So for red, you want to focus on 2 things. They are momentum and outcomes. Now, let me show you how to adapt this message for a red so that you get trusted with bigger decisions. So you still begin by mentioning the loss. For example, we're losing $1.2 million annually. Then you work backwards from the outcome. So you would then say, you need to assign every account to a single sales rep if you want to recover that $1.2 million. Right now, follow-up is inconsistent because no one is clearly accountable. So the action is simple here, one owner per account. And here's the plan to implement that in the next 60 days. So this message is just going to land so much better with a red because you led with the action and the outcome, and then you linked it back to the reasoning. But this type of messaging is only going to work for reds because every other color is going to hate this. It would feel rushed and undercooked, and they would walk away thinking that you haven't thought it through properly. So let's look at how to adapt this to a yellow. So yellows care about innovative solutions and balanced viewpoints. And because of that, the original message sounds half finished to them. To a yellow, assigning a single account owner feels like the start of the idea, but not really the idea itself. If you were to stop there, then you walk away and the yellow will think that you've not really thought any of this through, but there's an easy fix to apply. What you do is you keep the same core message. You only need to add two things. Now, the first one is innovation. And innovation doesn't mean you just attach the words AI to it. What it means is showing them that this is the leading approach. It's not just your opinion. So instead of jumping straight into the recommendation, I'd first qualify it. What you can do is you can say something like, we've explored a number of different approaches, and based on industry research, this is the strongest option. You can even reference external benchmarks like McKinsey reports or something like that. What you want to do is show that you are not just guessing, and this is going to satisfy their innovation. The second thing a yellow needs is balance. They want to know what this change affects and who it affects. So you walk them through that. Which teams are going to be impacted by this change? What processes might need to be updated? Does any technology need to be changed with this? And what do the downstream effects look like? Now, the idea feels complete to a yellow. A yellow will walk away thinking that you're thoughtful, forward-thinking, and someone who considers the bigger picture. And that's what makes them comfortable backing you and will give you more room to operate. Now, let's look at the blues. Blues care about logic and reasoning. And what's interesting about blues is they're not overly concerned with what the actual recommendation is. What they really want to know is whether you're confident in it and whether your reasoning holds up. So for a blue, you don't need to make it sound exciting or bold. You just need to prove that it makes sense. Now, this is where adding factual proof comes in handy. So what you should do is add data and charts and evidence that directly support the point that you're trying to make. The key here is not to overdo it with too much, but everything you include should reference back to the main point. For example, in this case, you could just show a simple comparison. The accounts with a clear owner versus the accounts without one, and what the conversion rates are between the two. When you see that accounts with an owner convert better, this becomes obvious what the real problem is. At that point, the recommendation doesn't feel like an opinion anymore because the reasoning should stand on its own. And that's what a blue is looking for. They don't want confidence without substance. They want your confidence in the idea because it's been backed by logic. A blue walks away thinking you're rigorous, capable, and someone whose conclusions can be trusted. Now let's talk about the greens. Greens care about stability, they care about caution, and they care about keeping the entire business moving forward, not optimizing for one small win when the bigger picture is breaking in the background. And there's something really important missing from all the versions I've shown you so far. And if you know what that is, then you're probably a green. What we've left out is the risks and the mitigation plan. Now, a green might agree with your recommendation, but they're not going to support it unless they feel confident that it's safe to move forward. To them, jumping straight to the outcome without addressing the risk doesn't feel bold. It feels like your thinking is not very strategic and immature. So to a green, if you present the action and the upside, they don't see decisiveness, they see a lack of strategic thinking. So here's how to adapt the message to any green. You add a simple risk analysis and mitigation plan. You list out what could realistically go wrong, what the impact would be if it did, and what you're doing to reduce that risk up front. And just as importantly, what you'll do if that risk actually becomes realized. Once you do that, the exact same recommendation feels very different to a green. A green will walk away thinking that you're careful, considered, and someone who can move the business forward and who's not going to put it at risk. And that is going to earn their trust in you. Now, here's the problem. Even if you understand the 4 executive types, none of this works unless you know how to structure executive communications properly. So go and watch this video next, because without it, you'll still be misread in senior rooms.